This is a clementine. I haven't memorized the names of the new residents here in Serendipity, so I have to look at the tags. This clementine I purchased before my other one started flowering. And one of the main reasons I wanted to purchase this one was so that I could see how quickly it could go into fruit production if it's planted correctly from the very beginning. The other one took way longer, and I think that was mainly due to the fact that I just planted it way too deep, on top of it already being planted way too deep at the nursery. This is what this one looks like. It's putting on a couple of blooms here and there, but that shouldn't turn into any fruit, especially not this year. But now that it's planted, look at all of these roots right here. They've started drying up, but it was planted way too deep at the nursery. So I really had to look for the root flare on this guy, and I planted it at the right level. So hopefully this one's going to start taking off really, really fast. I'm already starting to see quite a bit of new growth. So that's a really good sign. And I'm happy to see the progress. You guys will get to see that baby tree go from being a baby to being a beautiful fruit producing citrus tree like the others in Serendipity. This one, I think, is a Mexican thornless lime. Yes, a thornless Mexican lime. I love citrus, and I especially love lime and lemons because we use that in almost every single dish. So I definitely want to have more than enough for us to be able to eat with all of our meals, but also to be able to share with our family. So there's that one. And in all of these containers, I have onions that I planted last year with you guys. And look how beautiful the onions are looking right now. None of them have started bulbing up, but I think that'll start happening soon. In the meantime, they just look gorgeous. And then I have some more potatoes that I planted in small containers. And then this right here is the asparagus that I planted. Look how tall that is. It's taller than the cinder block wall. That is crazy. And we did taste one of the asparagus spears. Oh my gosh, I didn't even realize how fast they grow. It's already up here. Holy guacamole. Holy crap, that's crazy to me. Look at all these stalks right here. We tried one recently just because I accidentally broke it off right here. And the only thing I can say is that I have never tasted asparagus that is so tender and almost sweet. And oh my gosh, it was so good. I had all of my kids try it and they were munching on it like crazy. I feel like the one that I buy at the store, the bottom is always a little bit tough. It always tastes good no matter what, but this one was just so tender, it does not compare. So I'm really excited to finally be able to harvest some next year. And a few days ago, I was at Tractor Supply and I saw that they had some more bare root asparagus plants. So I picked up, I think, like 3 or 4 bags. So I'll be planting a few more containers of asparagus this year. Oh, and the variety is the Marie Washington asparagus. Behind that is another citrus tree. I almost missed this guy, but this is a Dancy semi-dwarf tangerine. And it is looking so beautiful. This is the one that I planted last week. And you can start to see some new little growth popping out right there. There's some more onions down here, and then next to it is an apple tree, but this is an Anna apple tree. So this one is a good pollinator for the other apple tree in the garden, and this one also did not lose any of its leaves during the winter time, and it hasn't fruited yet, but I almost lost this tree last year, so I don't mind. I just want the tree to grow and become a lot bigger and stronger before it starts trying to produce, because I feel like it's been through a lot, and look at all the new growth. That makes me happy. I don't mind waiting for the fruit. I just want the trees to be healthy. Next to that is a variegated pink Eureka lemon. And this one is so pretty. It hasn't flowered yet. No, this tree is one of the ones that tried flowering ever since we planted it. Ever since I planted it, but I didn't let it flower in the prior years because you can see it doesn't have as many leaves as some of my other varieties. I feel like right now it has more blooms than leaves, but also the trunk was so thin back then. Look at it compared to my finger. The trunk used to be skinnier than this, so it took a while for it to really start thickening up. And this year, I might let it hold on to a lemon or two, but I don't mind waiting a little bit longer just so that I can get a lot bigger and bushier before it starts producing. But I think the blooms look really pretty on this one. And the fruit's supposed to be pink on the inside. And I have one gremlin that is obsessed with the color pink, so I think they would really enjoy seeing a pink lemon. Yeah, it is so pretty. This is a pigeon pea tree. I started it from I started it from pigeons. I started it from pigeon peas or gandules that I purchased on Amazon, and the tree's grown a good amount. It's all the way over here. I wanted to fill out in this area a little bit more, and it's supposed to be really good at, and it's supposed to tolerate the heat really good, but I think it's going to do a lot better once I have shade cloth set up over here, because I'm going to extend all of this over to citrus lane. That's actually one of the projects I'm going to be working on today. But behind it, I have a ruby red grapefruit, which is already taller than the cinder block wall, and that makes me so happy because the more height the trees put on, the taller the wall is going to look, and the more privacy we get, but also the more whimsical the garden feels. It feels more like a secret garden. Plus, I'm not obsessed with the color of the cinder block wall, and having the foliage covering it up, I think, is something I really enjoy. But look at the fruit on this one. The fruit is so big. Look at those back there. They're huge. And we have been harvesting these. My kids love snacking on them. I just sprinkle a little bit of salt and they love them. This one hasn't started flowering yet though, so I feel like maybe I should start taking some of that fruit off so that we can make room for more flowers. Last year we got a really, really good production from it. This year, I don't know what it's gonna look like. Hopefully we get something. I mean, I see one bloom right there, but I want to see more because that's a grapefruit I really, really love. Next to it is an improved Meyer lemon tree, and this one is beautiful. I can hear so many bees buzzing around right now. There's even a butterfly. Oh, oh my goodness. Genuinely, that makes me feel so happy. I love that Serendipity is a home to so many different little creatures. Some of them at least, not the rats. This tree is one of the heaviest producers in all of Serendipity. Ever since it started producing, there has not been a year where it does not impress me with the amount of fruit that it puts out. And it's also one of the first ones to ripen, so I love this little improved Meyer lemon tree. I think the majority of all of my trees I've purchased at Lowe's. Some of them I picked up at Home Depot, a few at tropical nurseries, but this was one of the ones that I picked up at Lowe's, and I'm so happy I did because it's definitely one that always makes me really happy. Even when I wasn't harvesting citrus from other trees, I was harvesting some from this little guy. Look at those bees. Oh my gosh, there's so many bees everywhere. Okay, I have a few more containers over here. I planted some melons in some of them, and other things have just self-sown or volunteered, like these Malabar spinach. So I'm trying to thin them out any chance I get so that I can keep a couple, but they won't be too crowded, like these right here. And I can already start to see more popping up. Oh my goodness, and I think this one is a bean of some sort. So that's going to help to fill out this trellis right here, because for the longest time it had a lot of dried loofah vines on it. Last year it had a ton of Armenian cucumbers as well, and I think that looked really, really pretty. And I'm ready for it to be full again because that's one of my favorite sites. Next to the trellis is a Cara orange, and this one is really, really beautiful. It produced a few fruit last year, not a whole lot, but I was still really, really happy because I thought it might take a little bit longer. You can see that it's starting to reach the top of a cinder block wall, but it's not fully there yet. So hopefully this year it grows taller than it. And then one of the fruit fell off. So I guess this means this one might be nice and ready. The other one probably is as well. Look how big that citrus is. It's gorgeous. I was holding off on picking it just because I have harvested a few others and they weren't fully ripe yet. But yesterday we had rain and it was really windy out here, so it probably just fell off. But I feel like my kids are going to be so happy to try this one. Yep. So that's what it looks like right now. Oh, there are some blooms starting to peek out. Definitely doesn't have as much as some of my other citrus, but some blooms is better than no blooms. Did you hear that? Blood orange. This is a more blood orange and it has not fruited. It has not bloomed. It hasn't done anything other than grow. But I think I'm okay with that because this tree looks beautiful. Stunning. Look at how big it is. It's for sure happy, but I just feel like it's taking its sweet time to give us some fruit, and I feel like the wait will be worth it because I have tried blood oranges before and they're a very, very tasty fruit. So I feel like once we finally get to try some homegrown blood oranges, they're going to be extra, extra sweet. And next to that tree is a Valencia orange tree. And this Valencia orange is supposed to be a variety that's really good for juicing. And last week I didn't see a whole lot of blooms, but this week I'm starting to see a lot of them popping out. So who knows? Maybe I just need to be more patient and let the trees do what they're going to do, and they'll put on blooms whenever they feel like they're ready. So maybe that's what this tree's waiting for. Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed because I really want fruit. But this Valencia orange, I haven't tried any of its fruit yet. I was waiting because I thought I saw a little bit of a green tinge, but they feel nice and heavy. Ooh. And then look right there. Oh, actually, they're quite easy to pick, so maybe they are ready. Oh my gosh, I didn't even notice this branch. Wow, maybe I spoke too soon. I'm so sorry, little tree. You are doing fantastic. Keep up the good work. And here's a little harvest we have going so far. This next container has a lot of basil, and then I planted some cilantro there as well, and a few other, what are those? And I think some broad beans or something like that. Oh no, and some other greens. And ultimately, I'm gonna plant either Armenian cucumbers or melons or some sort of vining plant on here because I feel like I just want to make the most use out of all these trellises. But in the meantime, I have herbs there. And then over here, I have an artichoke. I don't remember planting that there, but I must have at some point. And then in the very back, there's a little, what kind of plant is that? In the back, I think there might be a little tomatillo plant. And then I did plant some watermelon in this container as well, but oh, I can't wait to have these little watermelon growing up. The cattle panel trellis. I have a few empty containers that I need to fill out. And there's also this Mexican cream guava. This is one of my favorite, if not my favorite guava in all of Serendipity. And it took me forever to find it because I couldn't find a nursery that carried it. At one point I was calling nurseries and they were telling me that they did carry it, and then I would make the drive over, and then I'd find out that they never carried it in the first place. So at times I was feeling really discouraged and I figured I'd just never come across it. But thankfully I found a nursery in Phoenix called A Tropical Concept where they carried this variety, and they were super, super nice. I was super happy to bring it home. And last year it fruited, but unfortunately I didn't even notice when it had fruited and when the fruit were ripe until they were already on the floor. And some of them the birds had already gotten to, so I was able to taste a couple, but not as many as I wish I could have. And oh my goodness, they were so sweet and so creamy, and the seeds weren't tough at all. Oh my gosh, it's such a good guava. I love it. I can't wait to eat it again this year, and hopefully once the shade cloth is up, we'll get a lot more production and the tree will just continue producing more and more. Oh, look at all the new growth it's putting on. It is beautiful. So beautiful. Ah, so beautiful. One of my favorite trees ever. Next to it is a burgundy plum. And this one doesn't have leaves right now, which is funny because it was one of the very last ones to go dormant and drop all of its prior leaves. But I can start to see the buds swelling a bit, so I think it's going to be a matter of time before it's full of leaves again. Hold on. Let me set this fruit down because I need both hands. Okay, I feel like most of my deciduous trees I buy and plant as bare roots, and this was one of them, the burgundy plum. And the reason I got it is because I figured it would work well with my Santa Rosa plum, and it was one of the last trees to go dormant, and it was one of the last trees to lose its leaves, but the buds are already starting to swell, so I know it's a matter of time before it's covered in foliage again. And it hasn't fruited yet, but that's okay. It can take its time. It's so new to the garden anyways. Underneath all of these sweet peas is Fred, the Frederick passion fruit. You can barely tell, but it's hiding over here. And you can start to see some new growth popping out. Look how cute that is. I planted all of these peas around it. This is something that I really like doing, is using plants as a living shade cloth or a living frost cloth, sort of. So the peas can handle the cold really well, the passion fruit cannot. So I like to plant peas in the same container during certain times of the year so that they can create a living blanket for the plant next to them so that they can protect them during the really cold, windy days or during the really cold, chilly mornings. But once it starts heating up, all of these vines are going to be cut back. They don't handle the heat very well. And then the passion fruit will be left to carry on growing by itself. And I don't know how many times I've planted a passion fruit now. I had one that was doing really, really good, but I transplanted it during the summer. I cut off a bunch of its roots and it didn't make it. I have lost several passion fruit to the sun here in the low desert, so hopefully adding shade cloth to this area will help to keep things a little bit cooler and help some of these tropicals stay alive. Next to that is some triple crown thornless blackberries. And these are starting to grow very, very beautifully. You can see some new growth shooting out of there. I bought that one at Lowe's and I planted it in this container because I've grown blackberries in the garden, but they were the Rosboro variety. And those are really, really good. They're really, really sweet, but I hate the thorns. I could not take it anymore. And I also didn't feel comfortable having my kids harvest them because I got pricked a ton of times and the little thorns stay in your skin. And this variety won't have those thorns. So I feel like the kids are going to enjoy harvesting their own fruit a lot more. And I'm going to enjoy it a lot too because pruning them was something I dreaded constantly. It was always a very painful, painful process. In the same container, I have fabas or broad beans growing, and I do not like fabas at all. But the only reason I'm growing these is for my sister. She loves them, so I figured I'd plant some in the garden for her, and hopefully she enjoys them. I have a few more plants in these smaller containers, and then this right here is a David Austin Lady of Shalott rose. It's a climbing rose, but it can also be trained to be more of a shrub. But I love climbing roses, I think, more than any other rose just because of how beautiful they look and how they can transform any space. So eventually I want to set up some sort of trellis right here so that they can connect to this side, which has another David Austin Lady of Shalott climbing rose. This one's also growing really, really beautifully. And then you can start to see all the new shoots coming out. So hopefully we get a lot of blooms this year. I think that's all of Citrus Lane, Aurora Boulevard, and Isle Kai. Now I'm going to take you into the heart of serendipity. And I feel like my throat is already starting to get kind of dry. So, so once I'm done with the garden tour, I might need to take a little break so I can recharge my gear and then actually get to work. But to enter the heart of serendipity, this is the only entrance, which is this Star Jasmine Arbor.